Welcome back, guys, gals, and our non-binary pals. I'm Penguin, I'm joined by Trouble, and we'll be bringing you your second quarterfinal of the day. An all-French clash of LDLC versus GamersOrigin. A tale of two teams, realistically. LDLC, you've done some serious number crunching on these guys. These two, yeah, like open up the full mats because you've done some serious number crunching for these two teams.
Basically, I think the LFL is our undisputed strongest region. There is no major, there is no minor anymore. They are 100% the strongest region coming into this EU Masters. They have 3 teams competing to go forward to the quarterfinals. Unfortunately, today for them, this stream will be cut in half. But we've discussed a little bit about it. There's two sides to a coin, right?
Absolutely. You're losing a team guaranteed, unfortunately. You are facing against 2 of these. But you are gaining a guaranteed top 4 seed. So you got to take the good with the bad. And, you know, as our fantastic producer Brett always says, you got to beat the best to be the best. So overall, I still think the LFL are going to be pretty damn happy with, you know, how this whole EU Masters has gone so far.
Yeah, they are 2 times winners of the EU Masters, and now with the SLO no longer in the run, which we're actually tied with for the most titles, the LFL has their chance to pull ahead and actually get the 3rd title and be #1 undisputed with the most titles.
And not only that as well, you're looking at the LFL, a massive deal for them in general in EU Masters as a whole, because they are the first team to ever get 3 seeds into the knockout from any region. Now, of course, there's been format changes. We've always, you know, the tournament's been evolving as much as it possibly can. But despite all this, all 3 seeds have made it to the quarterfinals, which means that 3 out of 8 teams, they are French. And that's a massive boost for your league to say just how dominant you guys have been.
Talking about dominance, I've been memeing a lot the average game time of the LFL. It's about 36 minutes, give or take. And I've got for you and for you a trivia if you would like to help me and guess. So basically, both LDLC and GamersOrigin have the shortest and the longest time in a game in the LFL. I'll have you guess which team has the longest time and which team has the shortest time.
I'm going to go ahead and say that GamersOrigin have the shortest time in the LFL.
And LDLC the longest.
LDLC the longest. That's what I'm saying.
Well, actually, it's going to be LDLC with the shortest game time in the LFL, only 22 minutes and 6 seconds.
Wow.
Where they actually lost their game that quickly. Whilst GamersOrigin... Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? GamersOrigin winning in a 58-minute, 53 seconds game versus Solari.
And this is kind of the...
This is where the 36-minute average comes
I was
from.
just about to say, that's where you get the 36 average. But what I will say as well is that coming into kind of the LFL, and we talked about small inconsistencies, it can be a little bit like that. One time, GamersOrigin look unbeatable. You can't touch these guys. Another time, they're floundering against Intrepid Fox. You know, we've seen these guys, and same for LDLC, we've seen these guys go from absolute top dogs to, what? Like, question mark ping constantly? Just like, what are you doing?
The actual funny thing about these 2 teams is that actually LDLC bounced back on week 2 and they went on a 3-0 streak, whilst GamersOrigin, they had a constant 2-1 and 2-1 both weeks in group stages. So GamersOrigin, you could say they were more constant with their appearances, while with LDLC, we have a lot more question marks coming in. Let's, of course, not forget that they both came from 2 groups of absolute death. It was literally they were fighting tooth and nail with first seeds from other regions. And, of course, we had the all El Clasico of the spring split with Kick versus LDLC, where LDLC came out on top once again. So the champions returning, they have the 2-0 versus the previous finalists, and now it's going to be dominance for who's the better team in the LFL. The LFL, of course, not having completed yet. It's still being played. I think this is what these 2 teams are playing for. It's not just who's better in the LFL, it's who's better in Europe overall.
Yeah, that's what you want to do. Of course, LDLC, the returning champions of the European Masters. They want to continue to be the first team to ever get back-to-back 2-time champions. And overall, I still think they have a very good setup in this coming into this series, because we saw GamersOrigin towards the last day for their group. Didn't look amazing, didn't look terrible, but definitely needed some kind of work there. But LDLC, 3-0 on the day, looked fantastic and really just earned themselves that kind of title of first in their group. So I'm curious to see which side of each team do we see. Speaking of what do we see an Orianna first pick.
So toucouille is really favoring, in general, very supportive picks to bluezor. They've been a little bit of a passive duo, if you will, where they're actually completing each other with their picks. If it's going to be more aggressive in the jungle, it's going to be the opposite in the mid lane and vice versa. So toucouille is taking the more defensive approach. I'm expecting something more aggressive coming out of bluezor. We'll see him on the Rek'Sai. We've seen him on the Kha'Zix. He's pulled out a Nocturne as well. That could be a really good combo with the Orianna. Something that's really gone through the radar is the Caitlyn.
I was just about to say, Caitlyn not banned, and LDLC opting to go with the Ashe. Now, the Ashe, definitely more of a utility ADC, definitely something that can set up a lot more with the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. You can do that from pretty much anywhere on the map, but I'm just very curious because when they're either very, very confident that GamersOrigin will not pick it, or they're comfortable with letting it through to GamersOrigin saying, go on, we dare you. We know you're not practiced.
It's not too much about the daring, in my opinion. It's more about YellOwStaR constantly roaming outside of his lane. And with a Caitlyn, you usually want your ADC right there and then to try and pressure constantly the lane. YellOwStaR has actually, I've got it somewhere here, 76.5 kill participation. He's in the top 10 of the entire EU Masters. He's the facilitator when it comes to kills and fights for LDLC, and he's usually the one roaming together with TynX to try and get these opportunities for his team. So I see, you know, Exakick playing a little bit more laid back with the Ashe underneath the tower. You can push waves really easy. You have the volley, you have the arrow to defend you as long as your summoners try and push forward. So I'm not necessarily too surprised to not see the Caitlyn locked in for LDLC.
Caitlyn not locked in, but that doesn't mean it goes over to GamersOrigin. They've also opted for the Skarner onto their jungle pick as well for bluezor. And I feel like the Skarner's kind of created its own little mini meta within the EU Masters. People definitely putting a lot more priority on it because you can't just see champion, pick champion, kill champion.
I think this is the whole idea here, right? Because we're really used to bluezor being sort of the Graves, Needly kind of player where he just disappears inside his jungle. And then you see him 30 minutes later, he's uber fed, has a lot of CS in his pocket and a lot of items, and then he just goes really hard on the opponent. But here on the Skarner, he actually has the ability to impact the map, get these ganks going. You have a Caitlyn bot lane, which means it needs to be extremely dominant in the early game, or it could potentially be in a threat of falling off in the mid game and not having as much impact.
Maokai being banned away, I really like that there as well. We can see so many times where they've picked that up on GamersOrigin, and Shemek just becomes impossible to kill. You can't cut down this tree.
It's not just that. I think he goes out of every single game having the most damage done in the team as well. So it's kind of like the Ornn where you really think it's a tank, but it's not.
I was gonna say maybe not damage done, but definitely damage taken. He 100% just soaks up.
Done?
Yeah, well, we'll have to we'll triple check on those stats. I do believe one of them would belong to Gamer Legion.
I've seen some of their screams where they're like locking in the Maokai, they're playing the scream, and suddenly like Maokai's topping the charts. It's insane.
We'll have to wait and see what they want to go for instead of that. At least it's going to be the final ban here for GamersOrigin. And what do you lock in for LDLC here? They're hovering a Draven. They already got the Ashe. We're not going to be beta about that one, so I'm not going to talk about it. But right now, you've got yourself your top lane and your jungler. What are you feeling that they should go for here?
I'd really like a Rek'Sai if they're choosing to play a little bit more aggressive in the mid lane. We usually very used to Vetheo and TynX making the playmaking around the map, and since bluezor has chosen to go on a more passive route with the Skarner and the Orianna in the mid lane as well, this will take a while for them to sort of come online, and a Rek'Sai Syndra can actually dictate the pace of how this game is going to go. And of course, with YellOwStaR onto the Nautilus, you can definitely roam around together with the Rek'Sai.
Now, hovering and locked in the Leona, so that's a very aggressive bot lane. Zenith Blade in, you get the stun off, put down the trap. That person's not moving for a good, I want to say about 2.5, 3 seconds of just stun time there. And overall, that's going to make it very difficult for someone like an Ashe who doesn't have anything outside of her flash to get away.
Would you like some more trouble stats?
Oh God, depends.
So, we're talking SMILEY here, 100%. I feel like the bot lane for GamersOrigin is the one that dictates the pace of their own game. SMILEY and HustlinbeasT, they're never falling back to the supportive sort of playstyle for the ADC. SMILEY wants to go hard or go home. The Caitlyn Leona lane allows you to do that. But what's really impressive that SMILEY is third on top gold at 15 in the entire tournament. He's usually 1,000 gold at 15 up from his ADC on a pick like the Caitlyn that can dictate the entire game moving forward.
This is what I wanted to see from LDLC.
That's
you mentioned
really
the Kha'Zix. You talked about that earlier in the game. Kha'Zix locked in, which means you have so much kill potential. And what I love about this is, from LDLC, they've gone with a very traditional front-to-back team fight with the assassination kind of pivot of the Kha'Zix as well.
Now that might fool you. Last time these two teams met, they played the front. They chose. The composition was a front to back. There was a lot of sleepers. There was a front to back. It was an absolute bloodbath. It was a 30-something minute game where the fight started from minute 1 and they ended as the Nexus fell. It was neck to neck. It was kill on kill. It was objective on objective. And if I'm having a wish, it's for it to go all 3 games the same way as the last time these two teams met.
Yeah, and overall, like you said, these guys are still actively playing in the French League alongside the EU Masters, so they're as practiced as they're ever going to be, and that's probably why they've looked so competitive as a region coming into the EU Masters. They just look so damn strong because they're just so ready, I suppose is the word you would go for it. But we're going to have to wait and see who is going to be taking the first game today. GamersOrigin and LDLC onto the Rift. And right now, I don't expect to see any major level 1 shenanigans. We didn't actually really get the touch on it, but the Vladimir in the top side is going to have a pretty damnly, kind of easy time up until, I'd say, Kha'Zix decides to join in.
I just really love, in general, the Vladimir when you see a very immobile ADC. We've seen a lot of times where an Ashe doesn't have her flash available, doesn't have her cleanse available, and suddenly she becomes a very easy target for someone like a Skarner, a Shockwave to land. And of course, Shemek with his flanks. I have to say here that Shemek is 3rd on KDA as a top laner, not with kills, but with assists. He's that far high because he's always there for his team. GamersOrigin don't seem to want to fight unless he's there. Of course, we're talking about picks like Maokai, like Wukong that can engage a fight, but I feel like here he's going to play a very big role finding these flanks, not allowing Exakick to play the fights.
And how do you see this early game kind of shaping out? We've talked at length about the comps, talked a lot about the players and their play styles. What are you expecting to see from both of these teams kind of coming into this early game? As we can see already, very aggressive positioning coming out here from LDLC. Not really going to engage onto anything else, though. But what do you want to see from these two teams in the early sides?
I think it's very original for both teams on the way they play. You know that bluezor and toucouille are going to take the more laid-back approach on the early game. They're going to try to farm, whilst Vetheo and TynX will have to dictate the map in the early game. Try to get some kills, possibly either onto the Kha'Zix or the Syndra. Try to pressure back toucouille, get some summoners. Toucouille has been a little bit hit or miss, if you will, in this EU Masters. He's not necessarily been as aggressive as we've seen him on the LFL. He's kind of like more laid back, if you will, and then he comes online later on. But you see, instantly off the get-go, Vetheo wants to take these trades because you want to make sure that TynX moves around the map freely. On the contrary, GamersOrigin have a really aggressive bot lane, and Caitlyn and Leona allows you to do just that. They have the first push, they get the level 2, they can constantly pressure.
See already Exakick being pushed back underneath his tower, does not want to get caught out. Actually very low on mana, almost out, having spam of those volleys just to try and keep the wave at bay. Like you said, just very aggressive bot lane. You have to pay respect to the Caitlyn and Leona. The pure amount of damage and CC they can put down so early on into this matchup is absolutely frightening. This GamerOrigin, they're going to take this moment to see if they can find anybody. TynX, though, going to find himself in a little bit of trouble. This is a HustlinbeasT with pretty much full, full everything, effectively. But TynX, the better of it, has a feeling that people are starting to close in on him.
I really like this from Hustlin because the Caitlyn has the pressure in the bot side, which means he can move. What he doesn't know is that he is on top of a word. But if you look in the middle as well, toucouille is the first one to get the roam in, and we might have our first 3v3. There's
a 3v3, and the AD carry's coming up, maybe a 4v4. TynX goes in, gets the scuttle, smites, and jumps out. They're going to drop the teleports on this as well. It's going to be a full 5v5. No one really there. They root down Ornn, and he is just taking so much punishment. He has to flash out immediately, but he's going down so low. First blood going over to HustlinbeasT, but the fight's not over. YellOwStaR just used the Hex Flash to jump himself over, grabs the Dredge Line. As they're still going on top of this, they trade supports, but overall, it's a 2-for-1 going in favor of GamersOrigin.
And that's exactly what we were expecting. Last time these two teams met in the LFL, GamersOrigin might have come out on top as the winners, but it was a bloodbath from very early on. All teleports were pulled into this fight. All members were pulled into this fight. At the end of the day, it is going to be GamersOrigin taking the better of a trade where kills are concerned here. But as you can see, TynX, all he cares about is just securing that scuttle. And you see that kind of the decision making for LDLC here differs because they're all split throughout the map. And then also when the Ornn comes in, he sits on a trap. He can't necessarily do too much. So they're split. Some of them are going forward, some of them are going backwards. And at the end of the day, it's GamersOrigin with the more decisive shot calling, taking the most kills.
I said it was a Hex Flax there from YellOwStaR, but actually it was an actual flash just trying to get in and ends up paying for his life over the wall there. But that was like, everyone was like, what, level 4 was the max level there. Most people level 2, 3, and they're just going absolutely on. Most people don't even have half their kit, and they're still going in for these trades. And overall, the kills did generally go towards the bot side. You got yourself 2 assists on pretty much everybody else. So your GamersOrigin, you're pretty damn happy with that. Just need to try and, you know, make sure that you can continue getting those advantageous trades.
As you can see, the bot lane hasn't actually had the time to go back and reset. Both of these ADCs are sitting on the Doran's blade. The thing is here with Caitlyn, you don't necessarily want to go back if you don't have your BF sword. You want to be extremely oppressive into the lane, and having that big sword in your inventory will make your auto attacks hurt a lot. He does have the money, so next reset he goes back. We're expecting SMILEY to come back a little bit more dominant in lane.
Thank you to our observers telling us everything to go. We actually see Berserker's Greaves, the first item there, picked up by Exakick. I kind of like this. Extra attack speed also gives you extra move speed, so you're not as vulnerable to the Leona, especially when you haven't got your flash.
When you don't have your flash, I think you're vulnerable to everything. There's like Skarners, Shockwaves, Vladimirs, Leonas, and like, how much can you run away from?
Yeah, it's true, but I think the runaway will definitely help you out a lot when you have those, you know, upgraded brown bags. You'd be surprised how much movement speed you get out of it. But as you see, toucouille losing his flash in the mid lane. Vetheo really putting down the pressure on this first pick, Orianna. And we very rarely see mid laners picks, you know, this early on in the draft. And I'm curious as to the you know, kind of the reasoning behind it from the side of GamersOrigin. As we can see, bluezor going to find the stun there on top of Nautilus. Zenith play going to be enough as well. I don't think TynX going to be able to do anything without any CC help from his laners, and he's going to back himself away. Clean kill.
TynX was a little bit behind the play right there. bluezor read it much better. They were expecting the Leona Caitlyn lane to push forward, so TynX was waiting for a gank right there, but bluezor had their number much earlier. They read the situation. bluezor is actually ahead in experience and in farm, which is sort of unlike when you see a Kha'Zix versus Skarner matchup. Kha'Zix usually wants to find the opponent jungle in their jungle and actually execute them, try to fight them, go for the 1v1. And Vetheo is allowing that. We saw that he solo took the flash from toucouille. I just want to see the mid-jungle duo to get enabled together with a roaming Nautilus and try to get more onto the map.
See them now. There is a cheeky pink ward there giving full vision over to GamersOrigin. They have bluezor and they have got themselves a little bit of a disadvantage, unfortunately. I think they just have to give this one up. Not the biggest deal in the world, just gets the Drakes kind of rolling a little bit, but good rotations here from LDLC. Gets them a nice and early Infernal Drake.
Yep, that's pretty good. They can start stacking them up. Potentially will create a win condition for them later on when they will reach the soul point, and they will force GamersOrigin to fight. Even though, knowing these two teams, knowing their history, they will fight throughout the entire game.
Yeah, they don't need an excuse.
Exactly.
They do not need an excuse to fight, but it's nice to have one. As the first Drake goes over, you want to try stacking those, so we could imagine we could start seeing GamersOrigin moving towards that top side, maybe look to try and trade back for a Rift Herald.
What I really like is that you mentioned how important it is to go back with Ashe, and when you're against such an oppressive, with too much lockdown team, you lock in the Berserker's Greaves instantly. Leona went for the Swifties. You cannot run away from HustlinbeasT. He will find you, he will stun you, and he will take your summoners. And we talked about it from the start, a summonerless Ashe is going to be extremely tough to play in a team fight for LDLC.
Right now, Exakick just about getting his flash back up, so shouldn't feel too at risk. Has got the Enchanted Crystal Arrow available to him should he feel the need. Did that kill in the back pocket as well. So overall, not feeling the worst. TynX is level 6 as bluezor is hovering around this mid lane. They sense something on GamersOrigin. They know that something generally happens at this time. There's the flash in. They're going to try and get all the damage down. The shockwave into the impale means it is almost certainly going to be a trade. Is it though? Yes, it is. TynX does go down. Vetheo just trying to keep himself alive and moving away from bluezor, who is very, very tanky with that.
2 levels difference.
Yeah, it's a bit of a difference there. Needs to be very careful. Lands himself a little bit of a stun with the Scatter of the Week, but should be fine now that HustlinbeasT has roamed himself up. They cannot push this any further, but overall, 1-for-1 trade.
I think this is how you know that these teams know each other so freaking well. TynX and bluezor have been shadowing each other the the entire game, and it's either one or the other coming out ahead with just being, you know, a millisecond too fast in getting the gank. TynX is now level 6, so he's using his invisibility to get in. A really beautiful scatter the weak lands from Vetheo as well, so it's not that hard for the duo to execute, but it's an assassin AD versus a really hard mage, so bluezor tries his hardest there, but it's 2 levels difference. It's so impossible to reach.
And TynX actually going to start doing the Rift Herald here. This seems a little risky, buddy. Yep, you need to jump the hell out of there and get yourself back out. But bluezor, you can't have it either. No one can have these cookies right now unless they just decide not to go for it. But I think he's just rotating around to try and stop him now.
I'm actually really surprised that the swap hasn't come any earlier from their bot lanes to go all the way to the top side and actually contest for the Rift Herald. Now you see GamersOrigin bot lane roaming through the map for that Rift Herald.
That hawk shot was huge. It caught out Shemek off to the side, so they know there's a blast cone. They know there's a way for him to get out. They are going to use the Ornn horn to try and start this one off. Solar Flare used directly on Vetheo to stop him. Now they can turn this one around. There are traps in the way. This Rift Herald down to about 500 HP. Who's going to get it? It's going to go up to the side of LDLC, but I think it's more of a denial than anything else. Flashes are burned. Everyone backing away. There was a chemo plague on people, and overall, GamersOrigin will not take anything, but they will also deny LDLC from stealing away that objective.
And you see how LDLC highly prioritize playing for these objectives, because Shelly will give them back the goal that they're missing right now and that they're behind from GamersOrigin. LDLC have 100% first tower ratio. With the Shelly, they can take down some plates, feed them into someone's pocket that really needs them, potentially even the Syndra in the mid lane to try and get her faster to the Ludencycle power spike, and then use the second Herald to open up a first blood tower.
That all makes 100% sense if they picked up the Rift Herald.
Wait a minute.
Unfortunately, the Rift Herald was not able to be picked up as GamersOrigin forced them away, and they were not able to pick. So it was a denial.
I was looking at my notes, I'm like, I have
you were
something
doing
here.
so well, and I did not want to interrupt you because you were doing so. I was like, she's got this. This is all here. But unfortunately,
it makes sense, right? They have 100% first tower ratio. They got the Herald, perfect.
And if they
no.
Well, they could still get 100% tower ratio right now as they are starting to hover towards this mid lane. toucouille has got his flash available to him, and his shockwave just came off of cooldown. So there are potential. Or there is potential, I should say, in YellOwStaR. We talked about how he's the roaming support, but it's kind of crippling him right now because he's level 5 to level 6 of HustlinbeasT. HustlinbeasT has got that Solar Flare. He doesn't have the ultimate from Nautilus.
Honestly, you come from a region, you come from the LPL, well, you see the Nautilus having 4 and 5 levels difference with anyone else on the map, purely due to the fact that this champion is just so good at locking down someone roaming the map and just creating picks everywhere. I would have liked to see this a little bit more than from YellOwStaR, since toucouille had no flash. Now that every single laner from GamersOrigin has their flash up and available, you need that level 6. You need the point-and-click lockdown to try and catch someone off guard, and I'm expecting that next Dragon for there to be a fight.
Have got the 6 now onto the Nautilus. The Dragon is there. bluezor was spotted out. Some great pink wards. You can see full move, but I have to stop talking about that as they're going to trade ultimates. Cleanse has to be used as well as the TP's coming in from the Ornn, and they're going to get a 3-man shockwave on the backside of that one. Has to use the Ornn ultimate to try and keep himself alive, but he will not be able to churn it off to the other side. Zenit played a little too early. The ace in the hole, not going to be enough to take down Nautilus, but they get the kill, and that's going to give them pressure over this Dragon.
GamersOrigin are playing with Summoner's advantage. Vetheo didn't have his own teleport to get back down there. They knew they would have man advantage, but now they have to absolutely respect the Syndra walking into that river.
Unleash power is still available. You can see Exakick is just hovering around. It looks like they don't want to fight this anymore. They're going to back themselves away. Everyone's far too healthy, and it's going to be GamersOrigin equaling up the Dragons.
So, if you look on the composition of LDLC, you think who has the most agency on the map early into the game, and it's the Kha'Zix-Syndra duo that I have just not seen necessarily much of. Here, GamersOrigin again are one step ahead of the play. toucouille gets a beautiful 3-man shockwave right there, and even though it doesn't do much damage yet, it creates enough disruption that the Ornn ends up dying all alone, and they also cash in, equalizing the Drakes 1-1. So all in all, GamersOrigin are playing extremely methodically. They've chosen the front to back composition, they've chosen an impressive bot lane. Everything is working out so far.
And that was a great example of a TP advantage. The fact that toucouille was able to join that much faster than Vetheo. it just makes the difference. His shockwave was what stopped everyone from the side of LDLC, as you said, from pushing forward, from getting them back into that fight, because it just CC'd and took a huge chunk out of it. You gotta back away.
Now the thing is, it's going to be Vetheo versus SMILEY. SMILEY having the Storm Razor with people not necessarily having much armor on the side of LDLC, it's going to poke a lot. It's going to hurt a lot when you're getting these headshots. On the other hand, Vetheo is spiking on that Ludens Echo. It can do incredibly much damage. This is why you see everyone from GamersOrigin sort of stacking the Mercuries onto themselves, because that Syndra is going to hurt incredibly much. And there are also a bunch of CC from the sort of LDLC. So it's 2-in-1. It's not necessarily that much big of a spike right now. The Ludens Echo, due to all the Mercuries, have already been built on the side of GamersOrigin. So SMILEY will be able to output a lot more damage than Vetheo.
Overall, pretty good starts. 1,000 gold lead there from GamersOrigin as we just go past the 15-minute mark. Vetheo just kind of keeping himself alive. Predator was popped by bluezor, and just enough to keep him in check. And right now, GamersOrigin looking good. 1,000 gold lead. TynX roaming in now into the spot side with a sweeper. Now realizes he has been caught, so he's just going to be able to use that to his advantage to try and kill off some more vision. But YellOwStaR, need to be very careful here, buddy. Don't want to get caught up in this 3v3 before you can have your teammates join you. bluezor jumps out towards the spotlight, and it's just to keep SMILEY safe while he pushes it in.
And honestly, you see all this brawl happening on the bot side of the map. toucouille has instantly started roaming. He pushes his wave in, he knows he has pressure over Vetheo, and he roams in. He might not be stronger because he's sitting on 2 mana components right now, but he's definitely faster on the Orianna.
Command Dissonance does give you a little bit of extra movement speed and slows down your opponents, so very easy to kind of set yourself up on that. Vetheo roaming up with toucouille. You can see they're just, like you said, they're just matching each other place for place. It's always these junglers in the same place at all times. Flashes in, gets a suppressed down. There is the shockwave on top of Vetheo, but he is not quite dead yet. Great scatter the weak, though, does keep him alive. They get the shutdown. The ace in the hole is not enough. Vetheo lives, and Bando now to run away. Solar Flare will not land perfectly. They force the flash out of the Ornn in the top side, but overall, they get a pick. They back out. It's advantage over to LDLC.
We talked about the Orianna being stronger, but if you put them head-to-head with the Syndra having a Ludens Echo, it's going to be much stronger. So the 2v2 leans on the side of LDLC, of course, having the Kha'Zix, which is extremely strong in the early game as an AD assassin too. So that was a great pick for LDLC. Vetheo now on 2-0 can start stacking that AP onto himself to try and assassinate, try to catch potentially toucouille or SMILEY later on.
Round 2. Do LDLC get themselves this Rift Herald? It looks like it's down to about 4,000
They might do. Do they pick it up?
bluezor, though, is sitting around. You can see the teleport coming in for Vetheo. He is on a ward. They will miss the dredge line as well as they jump straight onto Bando. He's forced to back away, but another fantastic scatter of the week means that HustlinbeasT is shut down, but it's actually a stolen Rift Herald. bluezor, you cheeky monkey, gets himself that, runs away. They lose one, but they gain the objective.
GamersOrigin feel like they're one step ahead the entire time. They're pulling the teleports where they need to. They fight where they need to. They put an LDLC into a choke point. SMILEY's traps have been on point this entire time. They're fighting in the river. So right here, you see Vetheo is pulling in his teleport, but the setup is already happening from GamersOrigin. They're pushing everyone into a choke point towards LDLC's jungle, and they're setting down the traps. No one can get out unless they want to walk through that little tiny place. And then, you know, toucouille's going to put down his ball. He's like, no, you're not allowed from there either.
To lose someone, but as you see there, bluezor had a smite, and unfortunately for TynX, he did not. So it was a little bit of an unfair smite fight, as you know, only one person had the tools to do so. But GamersOrigin, what you use this Rift Herald is where it's important. How do you kind of make this advantage known? As it's no good just taking it, or even just killing it. You have to use it properly.
I think the correct move right here would be to pop it down in the mid lane, create some pressure there, and then move down the river to try and get some vision and the second dragon. Starting to stack them up for GamersOrigin, I think here is much more important than LDLC, because they have the teamfight composition. They can teamfight whenever they want. They dictate when a teamfight starts or finishes. And as you see here, GamersOrigin are trying to get some agency into this river, but since LDLC are there first, they're going to put their vision down.
Have vision down, but HustlinbeasT is there, finds YellOwStaR. The dredge line lands on top of the Leona. They're going to try and turn this one around, but the Nautilus is dead. Now they're trying to kill this one off. SolarFlare lands on the TynX, and they get the 2 more ultimates stacked on top of it. Shemek picks that one up, and without your jungler, there's no contest here.
And we've talked about YellOwStaR creating every single fight for LDLC. I think this time YellOwStaR is going maybe a little bit too much the distance, getting caught out. We talked about HustlinbeasT and SMILEY. They're not going to blink twice.
toucouille has got flash available, will not use it just yet. Now he does, and gets himself out, so he loses that for the cooldown of the Call of the Forge God. And overall, GamersOrigin, now they're starting to pick up the pace a little bit. You can see that they're feeling a little bit more comfortable moving around the map with a little bit more ease. And Exakick, you knew he was there. Why did you stay? There was no need to use his cleanse. That just feels like greed right there as Bando comes in on a dying tower. Now they use it from the depths to try and get everyone in. On top of this, it might have all just been a massive bait as they pick up a shutdown. 2 kills go over the side of LDLC, and it's GamersOrigin who have overstayed their welcome.
Oh, there's more.
There is more. The shockwave on top lands too, but toucouille has been red smited, which means he wants to be challenged by TynX, who's trying to just get enough damage down. He's not able. Yes, he is. Gets him with the void spikes, and that could be Baron. They've got full health on pretty much everyone who needs them to tank this up, but I don't know if they have the damage just yet.
They have health on everyone except the one that matters, which is TynX, so he can't walk around the Baron without getting the hurt. This is so important here for LDLC because they're buying themselves time. LDLC lost, though, the 100% first tower ratio because it's GamersOrigin. bluezor has actually no reason being there. He does not have ultimate. Sure, they burned the cleanse from Exakick, but we talked about whenever Ashe has her summoners up, she's really easy to evade. Vetheo joins the fight, the party is over. That Syndra is extremely, extremely powerful. Whenever you find that Caitlyn, you're more than gonna be able to R that very beautiful R press of a button that kind of makes your ADC disappear.
Yeah, and a W there from TynX picks himself up a kill. Now 1, 2, and 3, very satisfying scoreline there for him. And we can see Vetheo already 4-0-2, picked up his first 2 items, and then the Skarner tax has to come in, picked himself up the QSS.
But at this point, you don't care if you're Vetheo because you're already ahead item-wise, so you can afford that, Shemek.
Shemek does have a hell of a lot of sustain, though. They will use the Rift Herald, and they will kill off Bando. Bando in no man's land. SolarFlare lands. They're going to have to try and dodge out for here. Shockwave only lands onto YellOwStaR, but they're still going onto this tower. This tower is just ramping up in damage. They may be able to trade this one out. bluezor does not get out, unfortunately for him, and ends up being traded back. It's overall a 3-for-1, but do they stay? I think TynX is looking for something, but I don't think he can get anything.
They're all bunched up. They know that TynX is most likely going to be playing right behind them. You don't see the Kha'Zix, you have to assume he's in some flank, and that was again a great play for GamersOrigin. Exakick has summoners, he can get away. He doesn't get to play the game. That was a great dive done by GamersOrigin. They're utilizing their entire kit, and even though I criticized bluezor for diving down the bot lane right before, I think he has been the moving gear for this entire game for GamersOrigin. He was the one who started the kills. He is the one facilitating all his lanes, shadowing someone who doesn't have their flash, such as toucouille the entire time, and creating opportunities over and over and over again for GamersOrigin. And as you see here again, the fight is split into 2 parts. TynX and Bando want Shemek, whilst YellOwStaR and Exakick want to kill HustlinbeasT. You cannot fight if you have your damage that split in between the entire GamersOrigin. Now they see the advantage of, you have the men's advantage if you're GamersOrigin here. You dive the tower, you have the CC. Ashe can't play the game. It's GG.
See now, Shemek on this Vladimir with the Spellbinder going towards a load of half items. Seeker's Arm Guard there, needlessly large rod and the Kindle Gem as well. But overall, just quietly building up his kill participation. 2, 0, and 6 on this Vladimir. 20 CS lead or thereabouts as well. So he's just slowly, quietly becoming a very major threat. He's going under the radar
until we just see him diving in and completely blowing up Exakick over tail.
That's what I think, honestly, with the 2 Spellbinders as well, you can see they're the 2 big things. But speaking of blowing up, now you've got a Medjai's on top of Vetheo. And honestly, I think you go for it. It's your 5-0-2. You're kind of the big damage source of your team. You look to try and blow someone up.
Usually, I say that whenever that book gets purchased, the game is over. The player who has it is just so confident that he has what it takes to carry the entire game. Not that I'm not confident in Vetheo, because I think he's absolutely fantastic, but he's just too even.
I feel like I'm spoiled. In the LPL, a Magi Soulsteal is, you know...
It's just bread and butter.
It's honestly course curriculum for your reading. You need to read this book if you want to be a mid laner in the LPL, or even an AP jungler in LPL. But I like the pickup. It just snowballs him if he's able to get 2 more kills, because he's not the one getting caught out.
He's not dying.
He's not the one dying. It's the rest of his team that seems to be dying. Great scatter the week, but unfortunately not able to kind of get anything else from it. Dragon has been started.
You see what he's trying to get, though.
Yeah, I guess he's trying, but looks like they're going to try and equalize the Drakes. Should be a pretty easy take here for the side of LDLC. YellOwStaR walking towards. Dredge line does not hit.
He should be happy with that.
And they are backing away, but the inside track does belong to GamersOrigin, so they may be able to get themselves another turret from this if they have the minion wave.
The minion wave is coming way too slowly, so I think LDLC will be there in time. The very important thing here is that you don't allow GamersOrigin to stack 3 dragons and then force you in a fight that you don't want to take if you're LDLC. So equalizing in 2 and 2 kind of puts you into the game of engaging whenever you want as well in your own terms. I think the entire time what these two teams have been trying to do is kind of make each other uncomfortable on when the engages happen. You see right here, whenever they can, they just pull the trigger. It doesn't matter the objective, it doesn't matter the time. It's just see champion, kill champion.
I like that as well, forcing the flash away. But TP coming in, Vetheo is there. They should be able to keep him away, but they're going to go straight in on top of him. There is the Impale straight down onto YellOwStaR. He has nowhere to go. The Solar Flare does not land, and YellOwStaR escapes. Shemek comes in as well on his TP, tries to put down the Hemo Plague. He's not really able to get the AoE. They've separated. They've moved away. TynX is also being a nuisance on the side. They can't separate right now. They're jumping in, trying to get the damage, but there's so many low health bars. Exakick and Vetheo are so healthy for LDLC, and a pretty much botched engage from GamersOrigin.
I don't know if it was a botched engage by GamersOrigin, because they saw TynX on the top side of the map. He had just walked through a ward, so they're like, we can just make a quick pick, because they have the tools. They have so much CC and lockdown in their composition, and now with the Orianna on 2 items, you can burst someone down so quickly. They just saw TynX stop, and they're like, we have the man advantage here. We need to push the button and go in. LDLC is just too good at stalling.
Oh, toucouille does use his shockwave and his flash, but does he burn down? Yes, he does. And that is the value of a red smite, ladies and gentlemen. You get those kills. That's the summoners, the ultimate, and everything going over to the side of LDLC in terms of advantages. They're going to be able to take this turret as well. And honestly, right now, it feels like, again, a turn of the tides. LDLC coming back at this now, feeling more confident. Maybe they even look to try and go for this Baron. It would be risky.
That was so important by TynX due to the fact that toucouille has no summoners available to him. It will take him at least 25 seconds from when he's up to get to the Baron. Is GamersOrigin gonna fight?
Solar Flare is available, so is the Hemo Plague. This could be huge for Shemek. They're trying to turn. They're going to jump straight onto the Leona. HustlinbeasT is going to be caught out a little bit, but has got that ultimate to try and keep herself alive. Not able to get anything, though, for her Caitlyn, who's just left to die. Shemek, is he going to be able to take down Vetheo, who flashes away? No, he will not. They're trying to keep going on top of this Vladimir. He eventually gets shut down. Ornn was fighting 2 people off on the side lane. bluezor has to leave him alone. And overall, another fantastic pick of a fight from LDLC. They are going to go back onto this Baron.
Rinse and repeat. toucouille's coming in. He does have his shockwave up and available. Do you take the risk, LDLC? Because 2-item Orianna really hurts.
2-item Orianna, definitely. And bluezor is still alive. The very key moment there. Shockwave lands. It only brings down Exakick to around 1/3 of his health, but they jump straight down. Exakick is dead. They do get bluezor to flash onto him and take that kill. That should stop any further Baron attempt. LDLC just getting their hands caught in the cookie jar for about the 3rd or 4th time.
They need to respect a little bit more the damage that this Orianna can do. Exakick right there, he had his spells available, did not use it onto the shockwave, didn't respect the damage coming out of toucouille's Orianna, and actually ends up going down together with bluezor's help, of course. This is a complete back and forth game. This is the entire thing that everyone watched in the LFL, this split when these two teams met. Yes?
I was just about to say, on your point, it's you know, dead even in gold, dead even in kills, dead even in terms of everything. Vetheo is just straight up dead. He can't survive this, unfortunately for him. He has no flash, no way out. As I say that, he does get the scatter of the week. Will he be able to stay alive? He will not, as the red buff does tick him down. bluezor gets himself that kill. But again, it's such a close game. It's a game of inches at this moment. If you give an inch, they will take a mile. HustlinbeasT needs to be very careful, though. There's a lot of damage on that Kha'Zix.
GamersOrigin are just so quick on the trigger, and they have so many triggers of CC in their kit that if you overextend slightly on a Syndra without flash, they're gonna take you down and half of your stacks on the Magi's.
They're trying to turn. Bando is got caught, and they're going to drop down the Solar Flare as well. They're going to see Shemek on the backside, who drops down the Hemo play. Exakick has to get himself the hell out of dodge. YellOwStaR shall be the sacrificial lamb as the rest of LDLC backs themselves away. But this is giving more time for Vetheo, who has got himself a TP. GamersOrigin realized that. They're going to turn straight away and go for that dragon. I don't know if TynX wants to fight this or he's just going for the blue.
I think he's just going for the blue. There's no reason. It's just the third dragon. It's not soul yet. Sure, you give them soul point. But at this point, they have the numbers advantage. You can't necessarily fight if you're LDLC. You've taken this gamble way too many times this game. This time, just let it go. I think...
In the great words of Elsa, let it go.
Let it go. I just really want to talk about our Lord and Savior, unsung hero, Shemek. Because he dives the back line, and even though we haven't seen a pop happen yet, even though he has a death cap, the second he puts down the Hemo Plague, everyone runs away.
It's like lifting a rock, and there's just like an entire ecosystem.
And they just all run away.
And everything just runs. It's just like, you can't stay around this, they're all going to die.
Which means that whoever is in the front line, and unfortunately for them, it's usually Bando and YellOwStaR, they get left all on their lonesome, and they go down to the entirety of GamersOrigin. So that Vladimir, we said from the start, was going to play a very important role trying to reach the backline of LDLC and play nuisance.
Again, still a very tight game. It's about 1,500 lead, but that leads very, very little right now. We have a quick check-in on the items. You can see the ornaments coming in there for Ornn. He picks himself up an Abyssal Mask and the Stunfire Cape upgraded as well. Has got himself a QSS as well. It looks like going towards that Locket of the Iron Solari. TynX got himself a hell of a lot of damage. They've got the Death Cap now on top of Vetheo and 2 items and a half effectively on the Ashe. But on the other side, you're looking at a 3.5 item Caitlyn, the 2 item Orianna. We've kind of been talking about that for a while now because she just hasn't been able to pick up the gold she needs. But overall, you're going to be pretty damn happy with any kind of team fight from both sides. You're at power spikes.
You're at power spikes, but so far LDLC are struggling with trying to control the Vladimir. He's level 16 now, level 3 ultimate. This is going to decimate the backline of LDLC. You're going to have to look over your shoulder.
Oh, from downtown, the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. And there's the little bit of the pick comp, and toucouille TP'd in. Just a little too late. He was gone in an instant.
Talking about looking over your shoulder, we talked about both of these teams having so much CC in their kit. The second you overextend, they're not going to hesitate to pull the trigger. The cat's out hustling. Shemek has TP, and LDLC are bunching up for that Baron.
They are bunching up for it. It's going to be a very quick Baron. The side of GamersOrigin need to get themselves in here. Bottom lane turret does go down. You can see Shemek just going back to base. The TP immediately in. They've got to try and go for it. There's the blast going over. Does he get it? Oh! Yes, he does! GamersOrigin get themselves and a massive shockwave on the back of it. And Shemek comes in for cleanup crew with the Hemo Plague. Absolutely beautiful from GamersOrigin. And they're going to take game 1.
You can bunch all up in this pit. Vladimir and Orianna will have you for dinner. toucouille and Shemek came in clutch into this fight. Thank you very much for starting the Baron, bluezor says, as he kind of rolls his mustache while he steals it away and allows GamersOrigin to finish game 1. It stays true. GamersOrigin are ahead in every single matchup these 2 teams have taken, and so far are yet to be defeated by LDLC.
23 HP on that Baron was the difference. A massive shockwave, an unbelievable Hemo Plague, and right now, GamersOrigin, they just pulled the trigger. There's no other thing for it. They just said, you know what, we win.
Pulling the trigger is an understatement because they've been constantly pulling the trigger from minute 3, both of these teams. But when it came to team fights, you could clearly see that GamersOrigin had the better composition for these bunched up team fights, and LDLC had to find that early game lead with the Kha'Zix and the Syndra. It never happened. I never saw the duo of Vetheo and TynX being unlocked, and this is what I'm looking forward going into the next game.
Yeah, and you know, I feel like, you know, for GamersOrigin, they score first blood in this LFL showdown and, you know, against LDLC, the reigning champions. But we'll break it down a little bit more after the break. But right now, GamersOrigin, they just look good. We'll see you soon. We'll talk about it more.
It's funny how it's different now that I got somebody. Yeah, it's funny. Ooh, yeah, it's funny.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen, after an explosive Game 1 coming into this quarter-final between the two massive French giants that are LDLC and GamersOrigin. LDLC have opted to go for red side in the next game, but before we go towards the next one, I want to talk a little bit about that one, because like you said, it didn't really feel like GamersOrigin were ever pushed towards their base. It always felt like they were playing on their terms.
I think they had their own game plan and they actually executed perfectly on it. GamersOrigin, we know they play for their bot side. So what does bluezor do? He plays the Skarner, a lot of CC, a lot of facilitating. He goes towards the bot side, they put their foot on the gas, and they just never let go from there. I feel like Hustling and SMILEY clearly took bot lane by storm, and that sort of translated to the other lanes as well, because by pulling the attention down there, Hustle and SMILEY were absorbing everything, while Shemek and toucouille were able to unbotheredly, is that a word?
Yes.
Scale.
Yeah. Have confidence, my dear friends. Just go with it. Even if it's not a word now, it'll be a word eventually. Where do you think the word yeet came from? And for GamersOrigin, they yeeted that win because it was just LDLC, they got the pick on the HustlinbeasT. They got the kill, and then they tried to go and turn that into a Baron, and it was so close, 23 HP.
I just feel like it was so forced all the time from LDLC. It felt like they didn't necessarily knew what their game plan was in their early game. I felt like TynX was trying to find bluezor too hard around the jungle rather than creating opportunities. Vetheo got a really early flash out from toucouille. They didn't necessarily use that for anything. So I just really want to see the TynX Vetheo duo be completely unlocked.
And we got ourselves the bracket. You can see GamersOrigin taking a 1-0 lead coming into this potential final game in the best of 3. Winner of the series will go on to face against Gamer Legion, who did take down the Vodafone Giants earlier on today.
Good luck to whoever is going to spell Gamers Legion and GamerOrigin.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a fun one there. As two gamer teams. You know, we're all gamers. Gamer. I'm gamer. You're gamer. Together we're gamers. So overall, what do you want to see different coming out for LDLC? Before we go into the draft, before we go into anything else, what do you want to see them do differently to try and bring back this series?
I didn't necessarily dislike the draft from LDLC. It's just the duo. TynX just never got going. He is the crowned king from the previous EU Masters. There were a lot of talks about him being the next LEC jungler that will go and take LEC by storm. And I just have not necessarily seen the fire yet. We all know it's there. TynX is a very, very capable jungler. And even though bluezor is not flashy and he's going under the radar with a pick like the Skarner, I feel like TynX does have what it takes to be extremely flashy, and this is usually where the wins are coming from the side of LDLC.
I'll have to wait and see. TynX, will it be explosive in the next match? We'll have to wait and see. Overall, it is going to be GO going into the lead 1-0. We'll be right back with picks and bans for Game 2.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the EU Masters, where we pit the very best ERL teams against one another while showcasing up-and-coming European talent. 12 regions will compete to decide who will reign supreme over Europe, so be the first to scout and the first to cheer. Let's get right into it. EU Masters begins with the play-in group stage, where all regions will have at least one team represented, with a total of 16 teams divided into 4 groups. Here, each team will play against other teams in their group twice, with the top 2 seeds moving on to the play-in knockout stage. The winners here will move on to the group stage, where 12 teams have already pre-qualified. This group stage is where the teams will compete in a double round robin, with the top 2 teams advancing to the knockout stage. From September 15th to 16th, like before, top seeds will play against the second-seeded teams from other groups in a best of 3, with winners moving on to the semi-finals. Here, the final 4 teams will play a best of 3 and fight for their spot in the finals, where it'll be a best of 5 to determine the next EU Masters champion. Each season, fresh talent explodes onto the Rift. The likes of Nemesis, Kha'Zix, Selfmade and Humanoid all rose up through the EU Masters. But who will be this year's champion? Who will be the next breakout player to make it into the LEC? Join the ride, tag along and witness history in the making. Bye for now.